So most people believe that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pay-to-win game where you have to invest a lot of money in order to succeed. And even though this isn't entirely false, it's also not entirely true either. We can all agree on the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is pay-to-play regardless of our goals. Whether you are a casual player or a competitive player traveling to every single YCS, you can't really get away without spending at least some money. The best question that you can ask yourselves is, how much money do you have to spend in order to have good results within the span of maybe a year? This is a pretty complex question that can be tackled from several angles. But first things first, let's define what you'll mainly be spending your money on. Are you consistently changing decks every time you get bored of the old one and feel the need to buy a new deck every single 2 weeks? Are you always trying to buy the most sought after competitive deck? Are you capable of being attached to a deck even after it gets hit on the ban list? Or are you primarily investing your money on staples and only replacing your deck cores when the old ones become obsolete? Depending on the answers here, we might be dealing with someone with compulsive buying disorder. This is characterized by the uncontrollable urge to always purchase items and goods. And don't pretend like you don't know what these are, because they consist of around 6% of the US population. And even though most of that 6% are women, I also know a lot of men who always feel the urge to buy. And it's getting really easy to believe that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not accessible to all when you see a large chunk of the internet community saying that it's pay to win. This can discourage a lot of people from getting into the game, even if that statement isn't entirely true. Now you might be thinking, okay, Yaksign, you've given us the diagnosis, but what about the solution? It's simple enough, and I've said it numerous times in the past. Never invest in decks, but rather in staples, because they don't really change in price even when they get reprints. So in 2017, I personally bought some Secret Rare Ash from Maximum Crisis for around $40 Canadian, and since then, the price never really went down. The reason for that is because collectors, and even players to a certain extent, not only care about the rarity of a card, but also the set from which it came from. And this is why reprints of timeless staples like Ash will never make the card crash completely. It is a powerful investment that you can choose to cash out on at any point in the future. With a little bit of luck, you might actually end up making money if anything. And if your goal is just to buy cards just because you want to play them in your deck, just buy the cheap low rarity ones. They won't really go up or down in price, they will just keep a low and steady value. And this makes the secondary market really convenient for buyers, obviously, because they can get cards for cheap, but also for sellers because they control bulk. Now with that being said, you'll eventually have to buy a deck. And this is where critical thinking is extremely crucial. If you're a hive-minded creature like most other humans on Earth, you might be tempted to buy a deck just because of peer pressure. You might also want to buy a deck because of the premise that it's going to give you the best chances at doing well at an event. But the thing is, if everybody is playing your deck, then you don't really have an advantage anymore. So, you're going to be back to square one, and you're going to have to figure out the best deck for you. And very often in Yu-Gi-Oh! The best deck to play is not necessarily the best deck. You want to play a deck that reliably beats the best deck and also catches people off guard. Because realistically, if everybody has like 10 side deck cards against you, you're not going to be doing well. You're going to have a lot of preemptive practice with the deck that you are planning to play, and this is where online simulators can save your life. And your wallet. Only buy a deck core after being 100% convinced of the fact that it is the way to go for this format. Also limit yourself on a budget to avoid going overboard. Buy every card at once, not individually, because you might be tempted to buy even more cards after that. Oh, and there's something else that I want to add. Most people see budget limitations as a handicap and a curse, and I really don't feel like this is correct at all. If anything, I'm even willing to go as far as to say that being on a budget and limiting yourself is a huge display of self-control. Something that unfortunately a lot of people lack in today's day and age. Not only that, but also it can be a huge blessing for you because it can make you reach your maximum potential. For example, if you're so incredibly broke that all you can do is play the same deck for years, you'll eventually become the master of that deck. And then if it ever gets support that makes it tier 1 in the future, every other player will try to play it and then will have to go through a learning curve that you already passed years ago. So for context, I started playing Cyber Dragons in 2014, the day that the structure deck got released. I couldn't afford to spend hundreds of dollars on Shaddolls, Burning Abyss, Clayforts, and Necros, so I was extremely limited. In 2015, we got Cyber Dragon Infinity that made the deck infinitely better. In 2016, the ABC deck came out, and I actually realized that I had a really good matchup against it, and it was a really popular deck. In 2017, we got Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon as well as Master Rule 4, which made Cyber Dragons a really good pick. In 2018, Cybernetic Horizon came out, and the deck got much better. In 2019, the format ended up being something really favorable for Cyber Dragons. Basically, the format was Sky Striker, Salamangrate, and Orchist, and Contact Fusing really takes care of them. And in 2019, of course, I ended up getting top 8 at a YCS Niagara with a revolutionary deck list. So you see, being so broke that all I could afford was Cyber Dragons really ended up paying off. You can kinda compare it to Rock Lee's leg weights if you will. So sometimes it's not really the game that's too expensive, but rather the player who insists too much on spending frivolously. But yeah, I hope I was able to inspire at least some people with this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts about Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about being on a budget in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.